Hey, so today we are talking about metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rock is rock that's formed from existing rock. So the rock already has to exist, and then it gets changed by heat or by pressure. So meta, think to change, morphic, meaning the shape of it. Metamorphic, you're changing the shape. So if you look at this GIF over here, we see it's going to start off as an igneous rock over here, and you could see some of the grain shape of it. And you see how they get flattened out in that way after you apply the heat and pressure. Those lines come across it right there. So this is how metamorphic rock gets formed. It always starts off as one type of rock and then transforms into it. If you look over here, this is a metamorphic rock formation over here. You could see the kind of bending shape of all those lines over there. So it has lines. You see the lines going through it there, but they're different than strata. We'll talk more about that soon. And I'm sure you heard the term metamorphosis before. Metamorphosis, caterpillar going to a butterfly, tadpole going into a frog. They're changing their shape. So that's what's going on here. If you see over here, one of the places where that's intense heat and pressure can happen would be like, for example, in subduction. So as this plate is being subducted underneath here, the intense pressure over here causes everything to flatten down. It changes the shape of it, it changes the color of it, and it changes it from one type of rock to another. So here's our first example of metamorphic rock. It's going to be called foliated. So foliated means it has mineral grains that are kind of all aligned, sort of like stripes or maybe like pages in a book. Now, those pages are not always totally flat. In this case, they are pretty flat. But in this one, you see how they have this like curvy line to them. So they're like not really perfectly parallel as they go through there. They're not quite touching, but this probably was some type of sedimentary rock that then got squeezed down together and then formed this over time. So granite changes into gneiss over here after a lot of heat and pressure. That's how you pronounce it right there. Gneiss. Over here we have slate. So slate was once upon a time shale. So shale, you might remember, is a type of sedimentary rock. It's clastic. It's made out of mud. And then the mud gets transformed under heat and pressure, and you get yourself some slate over here. So slate's kind of a dull rock, but actually people used to use it, like kids in school would have their own personal slate board. They would like write on it with chalk and then wipe it off, and that's where the phrase wiping the slate clean comes from. Over here we have schist. So schist is another one over here, and I actually love this one because it kind of shows how shale can transform into slate. So that's sedimentary changing into metamorphic, but then it just keeps changing to other types of metamorphic with increasing metamorphism. So again, I mentioned this before, we have an igneous rock, but then it gets transformed into metamorphic, metamorphic can also change into a different type of metamorphic, and that's what's taking place here. Now, non-foliated metamorphic, they have random mineral grains throughout it. So here's a limestone. Limestone, you might remember, is formed by dead plankton that falls down to the bottom of the ocean and builds up over time. After enough heat gets applied to it, it transforms into marble. Marble is kind of like granite in that a lot of people like to use it in their homes. It's really sturdy and it has a nice, like, kind of off-white color if you don't like the patterns of the granite. The statue of David right over there is made out of marble. There's another famous marble statue right over there. Part of the reason that people like marble is they discovered that during making sculptures out of it, they thought that it captured life-like images more than any other type of rock. You could like really like kind of see the people in there, and people were quite moved by this back in the day. Then we have quartzite. So quartzite is over here. So it's obviously it's got a lot of quartz inside of it. So this is quartz sandstone, and then with enough heat and pressure, it gets transformed into non-foliated metamorphic quartzite over here. Sometimes it has crystals inside of it, sometimes not. Now, in these ones, we don't really know, like I'm not, like for the next two examples, we're not going to like say specific names of types of rocks, but this is how metamorphic rock can happen. Of course, you know, it's heat and or pressure. So in this case, contact metamorphism has to do with heat. Rocks change when heated by contact with magma. So over here, this magma just cooled down over there. That's, of course, going to be igneous rock. But then, so over here, this is then transforming the nearby rock to form it into metamorphic. So just by being near the igneous rock that's cooling down, this type of rock gets transformed into metamorphic rock. So again, contact with heat, but not so much contact that it turns itself into magma or lava, because then it would just transform into igneous rock. Right, so here's the magma transforming. And look at this very last second here where there's like this thin white layer of rock that surrounds it. That was the contact metamorphic rock there at the end. So we have 3 different types of rocks here: sandstone, sedimentary, igneous, and then at the very last second over here, metamorphic rock. More contact metamorphic rock over here. And finally, we get regional metamorphic, and this is just simply rock that built up of pressure. The pressure is what transforms it. So intense heat and pressure deep, deep, deep down in the earth is where you get to have these types of metamorphic rocks form.